The March 21st meeting of the Urbana Free Library Board will come to order. Kathy, we call her, Kathy, not Kathy, Becky, whoever you are, you call her
What? Jane? Anna Merritt?
Here?
Chris Shearer?
Yes.
Mark Meadow?
Here.
Michael Weston?
Here.
Bill Brown?
Here.
Barbara Jones?
Here.
Devin Shire is not here, and neither is Jeff Bain.
And we want to welcome Jane back.
Yes.
Yes.
Additions, correction, modifications to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move along to the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We will have an executive session at the end this evening, so keep that in mind. Public comments. Do we have any public comments? Simon, you have anything?
I'm done.
Okay. Celeste, the budget.
So we'll take a few moments today, as we have done in the past, to talk through highlights of the budget. You have the budget memorandum, and I've just passed out the quote-unquote other funds, which summarizes L10s, L15s, 25s, and 30s, which I will go into a little bit more depth, but let's start with the overview. So here, in another place, I've got a slide just to remind us that we've got a lot of numbers in here, but of course, the reason we have statistics and the budget numbers are to show us who we're serving, which is our public. And with all the money that we have, we do great things for our community, which is why we're all here. So I'd like to focus on the people and the dogs, providing great service. So this slide shows that, without a question, not that there was, but local property taxes is clearly the highest percentage of revenue sources for the city, or from the city to the library. You can see that the city supports us in other ways. The FICA and Medicare reimbursement, the city IMRF. Last year, there's $155,000 with a city transfer for HVAC and the hiring of a development director. We're requesting this year carpeting, some carpeting for high traffic areas, as well as $160,000 for the replacement of the chiller. That's $160 and $50 for carpeting for high traffic zones. So again, there are other smaller things, but by far, those are the largest revenue sources for the library. So looking at expenses, similarly, wages and centralized staff expenses such as health insurance and things like that. Staffing, because we're a service organization, is the largest part of our budget. And I pointed out in the memorandum that of the total budget, staffing is about 67%, which is at the top limits of what the state standards recommend. So we're right in that range. Materials are in gray, and you can see that they are increasing, which we're very pleased to see. And then non-staff expenses are the orange part, which go up as well. In part, you can see an increase in some of these non-staff expenses because of the capital expenses we're doing that are expensive. So air handlers and boilers at $150,000 a piece add to the cost. Or the expenditures we're going to be making on the $25,000 local history online server. That is a larger chunk. So you can see that that orange number has gone up.
Is the staff basically no real change in numbers over those 3 years?
The staff is a pretty consistent size.
It's what?
The staff is pretty consistently
Yeah.
sized.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the staff number scarcely changes, although, you know, there's whatever, 1.5% inflation or so. How does that work?
Well, there's a couple different things that have happened. We have found that over the couple of years going back, sometimes when staff have left, given changes in use patterns, we haven't needed to replace people. Or we had a manager who retired, and then we replaced her with a person that cost less. A different position was needed for the department when we looked at the work. So we've seen some things like that. Or someone retires, and the person we hire in to replace them earns a lower wage.
What does the number of staff look like? Have you had to,
Between 80 to 85 people.
okay, so it's
is the
kind
fair
of
range.
That's why I
and
asked that.
Consistent.
It is fairly consistent.
So,
Is it into the TE or headcount?
That's head count.
so just looking ahead a few more years, do you anticipate that this, flat dollar amount, actually reduced real amount on staff is something that will continue, or should we expect it to kind of go up following
Continue.
roughly inflation in the future?
I'm not sure yet. We're still looking at the impacts of different changes that we see coming. For example, this year in the materials budget, we added a large chunk of money. A chunk of that went towards ebooks. So with the ebooks, we don't have to stamp and sticker them when they come in. We don't have to slash the RFID tags when they come out. And then we don't have to catalog them because we get the cataloging done. And we don't have to shell them or check them out to patrons.
So there may be a few more years of effectively being able to essentially reduce FTEs somewhat.
Depending. Also, the more of the materials that we have available for patrons for self-service, again, we won't need to reshelve items if, we will have to reshelve them. We won't have to double shelve items like the DVDs that are behind the desk. So we have to physically shelve the item.
Gotcha.
And then we have to shelve the cards.
Yeah.
And then you have to check out with the staff person.
Right.
So when we make that available on the floor, as we have done with the DVDs, the nonfiction DVDs and all the children's AV, it will cut some of the workload by half. Not all the
Yeah,
workload, but it would, and those are going to be changes over the next couple of years. So I expect this to change and to increase some, but it's going to be a couple, 3 more years before we'll say all the DVDs are on the floor, so that we know is a known, and then we can look at a pattern there. And then it depends on the ebook circulation, for example. There's still a lot of books not available in ebook. We will always be buying print books as long as they're available, and other print items as well.
But it also, you're including benefits there too.
That's right,
And
and that's
who
what
knows
health
if
insurance went
that
down
was-
last year. But I don't expect that to go down every year.
Right.
On the materials, in our long-term plan, it said that we would increase 8% annually until we came back up to 12 to 15%. I guess we were at about 10%. That looks like about a 25% jump. So is that justifiable? It's not really, our financial plan said we'd raise it gradually, and we're bumping it up all of a sudden, basically 3 years worth.
Well, it went up from 10% to just over 11%.
So 450 would be 12.1, right?
That is the smaller number. May I grab the director's, the memo? The memo's what I need. Because I want 2 sets of numbers to show with recurring expenses versus non-recurring expenses. And I want to say the right number out loud. So on page 4,
Page 3 is where you began to
it is
talk
page
about.
3, yep, thank you.
Yeah. You began to talk about an 8% would raise the material budget to the 12 to 15, which is goal for this board for a long time, let me tell you.
Yeah, I understand the goal, it's just our long-term plan, so we would raise it 8% annually, and it looks like we're bumping it up to about 25%. I'm just asking if that's justifiable, if the city council asks that.
So the reason we took it up a big amount this year is because we have not really raised it in the past 2 years, because we were lucky to keep it flat. And so I can certainly,
So we're making up for the last.
making up for lost time.
But you said a lot of that was the e-books.
Some of the, again, we would need to look at the budget itself, and you could see where the changes were. I think, I tried different amounts of numbers to get to different places. So at one point, we raised ebooks up quite a bit, and it's still higher than other things got raised proportionately, because we know there's interest in our community, and because there's a lot of interest in that, and so we want to make sure people have a wide variety of ebooks to choose from. But we raised everything else up as well. With the new director starting next month, and then looking at this year's circulation statistics, what I expect to happen with the materials specific breakdowns is sometime in July or August. Well, when this fiscal year has ended and we can look at this whole fiscal year's checkout, we will say, here's what 2016's checkouts look like. Here's what 2017's checkout looked like. So we can look at a couple years and see where the need is with the collections. We'll want to do that early on in the year, so we've got the whole benefit of the year to spend. But I expect we'll want to tweak things a little bit. These are my best estimates right now, not having this full fiscal year's circulation. We also know there's some areas that we need to add more to. For example, the graphic novel collection. We are spending part of our regular book budget on it, but it's extremely popular. So we may want to put more money in there proportionately to build it up because we know it's so popular. And that's a level of detail I don't have right now because we don't have the full year's statistics.
And also, just as a point of information, the Supreme Court's supposed to announce the Carl decision Thursday morning
Oh, really?
Aha.
at 9 o'clock. So.
Okay, so that is one of the deciding factors that impacts our budget. Thank you.
Do the science kits and the musical instruments and those things fit into what we're talking about here, or is that a different category altogether?
They do. They fit in here, and we also have the option to use some of the donor funds in our L10 lines. For example, Glenna Spitzy has indicated that she's very interested in sponsoring new exciting things to serve children. So we're looking at adding a musical instrument collection specifically focused on children, and that would come from the foundation based on the funds she has already donated. And so we are going to continue to contribute a certain amount of money for new collections because it is a priority of ours. Our patrons love them, and it's something new and exciting to try. Different ideas, but I also expect that's a place where donors will be happy to say, well, I'd love you to start a blah, blah, blah collection. Here's $500. Let's give it a try. That will be an exciting place of growth, I think.
Okay.
Other questions? And have I answered the ones you've asked already?
Well, you mentioned the carpeting, and I brought up last time my opinion, which we can talk about it. It's not the world's hugest item, that it would be better to delay that a year, and actually, I didn't really see that it was that worn. Just looked today, didn't see that it was really that worn. And probably for less money, do the double painting of the big windows, because that starts saving a little bit of money right away. And so if we're talking about similar type expenses, might as well do the one that brings us savings first and do the one that doesn't second.
Yeah, I actually thought the same thing about the carpeting, Joe. And of course, what we try to do is replace it right before, the day before somebody trips over it.
Yeah.
And that's hard,
Yeah.
it's hard to gauge. But I don't know what you see, I guess, when you look at it. I was looking at it, it was old, but okay still.
I came in a little early today and sort of paced back and forth trying to see if I could see anything wrong. I'm obviously low sensitivity, not the best detector of carpet wear, but I didn't see any issue.
Would you estimate that the carpeting will be something that we will want to, that the board will want to have input on as we move along? I know we've talked about spacing it for several years, or is it going to be under 10,000 any one year so that we wouldn't necessarily have an opportunity to say, no, we'll hold that off, or yes, we'll do 2 times this?
Well, we're bringing it to you right now. This is exactly the kind of discussion to have. And this is how Kathy laid it out in the document she submitted last month as a spending plan. This was listed for 2018.
Yeah.
You get to choose. So if you would prefer we go a different way, we'll amend that and make a different choice. But when we do a high traffic area, you'll get a better price generally if you do a larger amount. So what we would do is bring it to you, and I expect it's going to be more than $10,000.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Okay.
We're not looking to circumvent the board if that's
I know
the question
that.
you're
I know
asking.
that, but I just-
That's why it's here for you to see.
In response to, there would be those that feel that we can hold off carpeting where we can't hold off coolers, that sort of thing, so. Okay.
Sorry. Have we explored grant opportunities for energy savings, either historic or DCEO, for if one did the double pane, would that be easier to get grants for that?
We're actually going in on the energy consultants with the city. They're writing an RFP, and including the library as part of that process. And so as they bring a person in, or a company in, to evaluate where the savings are, that is exactly one of the things we want to find out, where they think we'll be able to save and how do they earn that back.
When is that what's the timing of that?
They're putting the RFP out soon. Scott Tess is working on
That's
this.
for the ESCO, right? The-
Right.
Yes, yes. So we don't have a time frame yet, but that is definitely on our window. So we can call it not carpeting, but capital expenditures.
Yeah, yeah.
Capital expenditures dash not carpeting,
Yeah.
and put aside $50,000
Yeah.
planning to be spent this year, or whatever number you pick.
I
And
like
then we can
that.
see what the difference is, because the windows could be
Yeah.
90, and then we'd have to find 40, but we can make that work. We just, this is,
Yeah, let's
I can,
call it that.
I would,
yeah, oh, great.
I'd like that.
Okay. And then as we find out what we think we could save by making any of the changes.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Except one thing, are people tripping over the carpet? I mean,
No.
how bad is
No.
it?
No, we're trying to be proactive. We don't want to look shabby,
Okay.
because we don't need to. But we're not shabby yet, and we're not tripping yet.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, there must be some sort of objective measure that says we are now, it's like tire tread, you get past the 16th and you're not going to stop on what pavement. But maybe there isn't one for carpeting, I don't know, but,
The general wear and tear, the carpeting came in 2005, it's 2017, so that's,
Yeah.
almost 12 years. And so there are general rules of thumb, but again, if it's holding up well, we're happy for it to hold up well.
And if it's an issue of aesthetics, then we'd probably have 20 different viewpoints, so that's difficult to.
Did
it's
you
not
talk the last time
Not something you
about-
can measure.
Right,
About
yeah.
the carpeting being in squares where it might be easier?
We did not, but that's,
Okay.
thank you for bringing that up. The city just did some recarpeting, and it looks really nice, and they use the carpet squares, so they go down quickly, there's less, different kinds of cutting around corners, but if there's a coffee spill, for example, or other bodily fluids from small children in children's department or something, it's easier to replace out a piece and less expensive. So that would be a way that we would consider.
Only you better make sure that the new squares are put down properly,
Yeah.
otherwise you will have people
Yes.
tripping.
Yeah, I'd like, maybe this is digging too much into detail, but I've had some real issues with carpet squares in the
Okay.
past. But maybe they're better, maybe it's installed better now.
It depends on the installer.
Okay, because I've really had some horror stories, but,
Okay.
Yeah.
but,
When we get to the carpeting.
Yeah,
we'll
I don't think we
absolutely-
need to-
Again, it'll be coming to you because it's going to be,
Okay.
people getting quotes on
Okay.
particular projects, and this is the kind of feedback we need, what to look out for.
what surface is under the carpeting?
I'm not sure.
Concrete, I
I'm not
think.
sure.
I assume concrete. No hardwood.
No.
Well, I'm assuming we want carpeting because it's a library, we don't want a lot of noise rattling around there, so.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's concrete.
Yeah.
In the front rooms, we think, Becky and I both think it's marble underneath.
That could be.
Well, now that poses another
If
question.
you look at the edges, there's a black
Uh-huh.
kind of molding up there, which I believe is marble.
Okay, well,
That could be.
maybe we've lost our marbles. But, maybe we need to ask the question, seriously, do we want to recarpet that, or is there some way to, if it really is marble?
You don't want clickety-clickety-click on
Yeah, and-
marble.
Well,
No way.
I know, I know.
Their heads on it.
I'm trying to swim uphill there, I just get that.
Front rooms.
Somebody comes in and
Pretty.
slips.
Yeah, it's pretty, but,
Yeah.
If there are any other questions here, let me ask that now. We can circle back to anything else later, but any questions about this at the moment? That overview, big picture? Okay. So some people have said in the past they like a pie chart, so just a different representation of the same information you saw. It's a smaller amount going into fund balance this year because we're going to be spending some of the money we would have put aside. Again, we would have put aside $26,000, $25,000 to the IT capital expenditures, but we're actually going to spend it this year. So it's not quite zero, but it's a lower amount into fund balance. So again, another reminder of why we do what we do. This is about program attendance, showing the pattern of program attendance and number of programs, which has gradually increased as far as number of programs, and attendance is really going up quite a bit, which is great. This dress was made by a teen in the Teen Open Lab. She came in, wanted to make a dress, and she made a dress. And I got a picture of it because I walked in and said, look, she made a dress. And so just like that, the creativity of our students, of our community is something that we love to see at the library and we love to support.
not an important question, but did she design that fabric? I mean, the fabric?
No, but we've been looking at her print. Jeff actually sent me something about fabric printers. You can print fabric.
That's very cool.
And so I sent something to Joel and Lauren about that. There's big industrial ones, but there are smaller ones that you can do. And so there have been some thoughts about potential areas for growth. So I put this in the board packet as well. This is what's happening with the reference questions. So up until here, we were counting total questions, which includes things like, where's the bathroom? Or, can you do this thing? I mean, there are a lot of, help me notarize a document. That's not a reference question. So this is the first year that we were doing reference questions according to the state requirements. But you can see, and I mean, this year, same thing. It is significantly dropped because the world around us has changed and people use their phones and Google. So we still get asked lots of questions, but they're not reference questions. Same thing with computer use. People are doing things differently. We still have a lot of people who use the computer, so we're being responsive and we're going to change. We have limits on a number of times you can use the computer in a day, even if the computers are free. We're changing that. So we're in the process of doing that right now. But it does impact the decisions about the reference desk staffing and such. This is again showing the number of patron-initiated circulation, how that goes. Here's our total circ, going up and up. Look at these renewals. Look at these self-checks, and look at those downloadables. And look at this year, only 7 months in, 6 months in, 7 months, sorry. And it's almost as high as all of fiscal 15. So people are really enjoying the extra renewals you've allowed them. They're enjoying self-checking, and they're enjoying those books. We're very pleased to see people using and loving the collection. This is not for you to look at and try to read it. This is a reminder of that, the balance sheet that you get with our checking account that's in the board packets monthly.
Yeah.
So the most important month for us as we look through here is May. Because May is the month before June, and June is when our taxes come in, the second set of taxes. So we make it through almost to the end of our fiscal year before we get all of our tax money because of the way it times out. So if you look at the LO5s, which is the general fund, the fund we work off of, in May, it's the lowest it is of the year. Last May it was 161.9, so almost 162,000. The thing that we have to remember is we should have in our LO5 account a fund balance, which we do. And in the fund balance, we set aside about $250,000 worth of things that are to be spent on particular projects that the board has set aside. For example, the 11-year accrual. Every 11 years, there's 27 pay periods. We need to be saving money as we go so that come year 11, we can pay people the full amount. So the fact that we hit 161.9 last May, which is better, a couple years back, it was 66,000. That's not where we want to be because we still have bills to pay in May. There's still stuff that has to happen. So we watch this number carefully. We've been very happy to see this number coming up. It shows that our fund balance is increasing. I know that when we look at the audit, it looks more like that number, but it's artificially inflated because that money gets us through the rest of the year to get to here, if that makes sense. We do have that September thing as well. So right now we don't have a May yet because we're not there, but we do watch that. We see it increasing, but I would love to see more money set aside in the fund balance to bring it up so that, come June 1st, if something terrible happened, we know that we could have that money set aside for these other projects and designations, as well as pay our bills. We do have money in these other funds. This is the building fund. This is putting a roof on the Weber property across the street. When it was purchased, it needed a roof. That was a lot of money, and then we paid taxes out of it a couple times. Currently, the property is actually earning enough money to pay taxes on the whole plot of land, so it's self-sustaining in that way. And when I'm hoping now that the foundation has completely paid off the note, the property was paying the interest on the mortgage of the note, which was $37.50. Now that that's not happening, I'd like to see some money coming back to the library to pay this amount off. And we are working with the property management company to see what our most current budget looks like for that property, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But I expect that this number won't be a negative forever. It won't be a negative forever. It's going to start paying itself back. And then these other numbers, the biggest one, of course, is our L10s, the trust funds.
When you say the money coming back, it's because it flows through the proper management company?
None of that
Okay.
comes to our funds
Yeah,
at all.
okay, yeah.
And that would be in the L15s, and we see none of that because it stays with them, which is
And
how
what
the
would
auditor
we-
said to do it.
And what were we paying the foundation for as interest about annually?
$37.50. They paid it, then we would reimburse them,
Okay.
because that was the note in their name. So let's look at something that makes a little bit, it's easier to see. This shows the May balances. So years back in 2012, it was large, but then we did different things like purchase the RFID system. There was $100,000, and at one point, the library was going to be reimbursed by the city, but in that year, the VERF fund wasn't going to handle it, so we didn't get reimbursed. So there are reasons that that went to that point. They were all approved by the board, and then we've been bringing it up. So this is not going to be the end of the year, because it's only, well, we're getting there. This should say, this is, this should
January.
say May. I'm not sure why it says January, but I did it today, it was supposed to say May. So that, there we go. That is what I had. Other questions? And then we've got the other funds budget.
The other accounts.
So as we talked about before, what you have all seen in the past and approved in the past is the LO5 budget, and that's the long detailed one. This is a summary that actually goes to City Council to show the other funds that the library has. But even what City Council has received before wasn't the current year, it was always a backward look. So what we wanted to do is show what we anticipate receiving, what we anticipate spending in these different areas. So in the L10s, looking at what we expect from the book sales and a couple of particular donors, we expect $25,000 to come in, and we expect to spend it all. But we expect to spend a little bit more because, as you saw, there's a $228,000 balance in that line. And some money's been put aside for programming. So we want to spend potentially into that to pay for our author event come fall, versus taking it out of our regular program budget, which is not as big as we'd like it to be. The building fund, again, that's handled in the property, Weber property cash flow statements that are in every month's board packet. They never come into the library budget until hopefully we'll get a refund this year for the roof. The L25s Becky and I have been looking at, and we need a little bit more time. A lot of what happens with the L25s is the sales tax at the cafe. So we sell things, we take in the sales tax, and then Becky pays the sales tax back to the state and the city. So we do actually sell some, bags, the occasional t-shirt, the occasional mug. Just the way things are in the computer, it doesn't lay out consistently across different lines. And so we needed more time to do that. This is not going to have a huge impact on the budget. There's not a lot of revenue overall that will come in here. So I'll have something for you updated between now and the next board meeting.
Sorry.
With the L25s, Kathy has applied with Lauren for a grant for the Maggie Stiefvater event in the fall that we talked about, the New York Times bestselling author. We've applied for a grant of $25,25. It's matching on our side, which is why you have the number up top. And if we get it, we will receive the revenue and spend it. If we don't get it, we will end up spending more library money as opposed to grant money. We don't know if we've received the grant or not yet. So this is the best estimation we have right now. So this summarizes for you what I can tell you today about our other funds, which is, again, compared to the other budget, you saw a small amount, but you want to know that. So any questions about that, or we have time for budget discussion later, so however you want to handle any other questions or discussion.
I always get mixed up about negatives and positives. So like for the trust fund, you have a negative 25-25. Does that mean a positive balance of 25-25 because you have more book sales, or?
I actually wrote this in we will be taking from the balance 25-25. This probably should be the other way, but all the other Excel spreadsheets we give you are in this way, that negative means you're in the hole and positive means you're
So
ahead.
it's in brackets. That's another way of showing that, right?
Friends, yeah.
So the trust fund, $25,000 revenue,
Right?
what's that from?
So we expect $20,000 from the book sale. One donor gives, two donors each give $2,000 a year, that's $24,000, and then other gifts that come in through the year is about $1,000.
So then the expense book sale money, $20,000. What's that?
So we are going to spend the money that the friends give us on books. So we're going to receive the money, then we're going to spend the money.
Okay, so the revenue is just not itemized, but the expenses are, okay.
Correct.
Then, so do you provide balances for these funds, or is that already, was that in that sheet at the end you had on?
It's in the sheet I had up.
Okay.
Yep, and if you, no, that's not. The way that the detailed trial and the budget and forecast look right now is going to change a little bit, because for these funds, it's in and out. As the money comes in and gets spent, you get a balance, because we don't actually put in a budget for spending. So there's that fund balance sheet at the back of the budget that we show for the regular LO5 budget that shows the balances. We're going to do something like that for these funds as well, because we're going to be using these like everything else. So a balance of the year's spending, not the total balance overall, like a checking account. So you'll be able to look at the fund balance Excel spreadsheet as well as the bank account spreadsheet to look at those numbers.
If I can understand this.
Yep.
As money moves from fund to fund, it's either positive or negative. So if it comes in as a check to you or to the library for $10, it's a positive $10. If you put that in a capital fund, it's now minus $10 from the original fund, positive $10 to the new fund. Is that sort of right?
That's how we're doing it, but if you look at accounting standards, you would actually put it in as a negative.
That gets funky.
It gets funky. Thank
Well,
you.
we don't, well, government accounting doesn't use double entry bookkeeping, right?
We use double entry
You
bookkeeping.
just use fund accounting?
We do double entry.
We do double, oh,
Yeah.
is that standard for government aid?
Yeah, so the fund that's getting the money gets the positive, but the account that it goes into, kind of the big account, gets the negative. So you'll see a positive and a negative. It's yeah, we do the double accounting.
Okay, I'm throwing these terms out like I knew what they meant, but fund accounting, we don't do that, right?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that.
Well, I'm not going to do it, Asa.
Like the state of Illinois, if I remember, doesn't have a standard accounting. Is this correct?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Some people have
I know, but I
High
think
ranking
actually the
officials have
state of
counted on
Illinois
that.
does not have a standard.
Our accountants do.
Yeah, our
Yeah,
auditors,
let's see.
our auditors, so.
Okay, I just wondered if, okay.
So we try to.
Right, I just wondered if the city had imposed, because a lot of cities, the way I understand it, a lot of cities have imposed one because the state has no advice. I may be wrong, but this is what I've heard. Never mind.
And this is the first time we've seen this, so you're going to have questions. And I look forward to your questions, because that will make it better. These are the tools for us all to use.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
The board meeting minutes of February 14th, the payroll for February 17th, bills for February 22, payroll for March 3, bills for March 8, and payroll for March 17th are consent agenda items. May I have a motion to approve them?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. And that takes care of the account balance that she was talking about. Okay, financial policy. In essence, I think that was the one,
There
that's
aren't
the
a
one
whole
that...
lot of changes in this,
The
right?
word
It's just-
library seems to be capitalized, isn't that basically all there was one other?
Well, there were a couple of
Yeah.
things that were eliminated, or,
Well,
I was going to ask, is that cleaning up, or were those because they're more administrative?
This was, there were the two changes. One was so that it says that the board is approving all the budgets at the same time. In these different special funds, the other funds, it would say that you, the board, wouldn't approve the budget till it was spent and the audit was approved. Now, we're taking that part out so that you're going to approve them up front before spending happens.
That's what I meant by administrative.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying my.
And
And
the
then the
others,
other piece was
and the others is signature.
the signature, so that
Yeah.
if Becky is not here, someone else is able to use the
Yeah.
second signature, but not the person who's using Kristen's signature.
So otherwise, the word library gets capitalized everywhere.
We do our best.
Is there any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the financial policy?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. I didn't take a negative. Replacement, the chiller, including the issuance of the RPF. The RPF has been,
RMC,
RFP, I mean, has been sent, hasn't it?
it's the boiler. So the chiller. we
Oh,
talked
this is the
about.
chiller, you're right.
This is the chiller, which is running at 50%
Yeah,
of
right,
our
right.
bid.
Any questions on,
So
The
in
budget item.
In the budget, this is what we're asking the city for money for, the
Yes,
FY18.
yes.
So if we go ahead and approve the issuing RFP, this doesn't cost us anything yet, right?
We're
I
not.
mean, we don't have the money from the city yet, that's why I'm
We
worried about.
don't have the money for this yet, that's true. But we felt since we're putting it in the budget, it would be wise to
To
ask
have a
the board
budget.
to approve moving that direction.
yeah.
And if it doesn't come from the city,
Yeah.
then it's incumbent upon us to find the money in other ways.
Or change the budget.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
That's one way of finding it
so moved.
elsewhere.
I move approval at 9.2.
Second.
Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, 9.3 for the high traffic and carpeting area. We've expressed some opinion here tonight. So I'm not sure where that leaves us, because we've kind of suggested that maybe it come before us at the time. So if we approved it, we were in essence authorizing the go ahead to seek at least the estimates for what that would be. Is that what we would be doing if we approved this?
Well,
Yeah,
we
Barb.
wanted, go ahead.
This is for the actual replacement, right?
Yeah,
I
this-
thought we.
But it's on the high traffic areas, and we've already had a discussion that,
Yeah.
We basically said we're not going to do this and don't want to commit to this at this
We
point.
want a budget for capital, and it might be this, but it might be the windows, depending on what.
so I think that we
That's what
ought
I
to
thought.
Skip
disregard
this,
this
or-
motion then.
Table this or something?
Table.
Table it, yeah.
Table, that's
I
good.
move we table it.
Second to the tabling motion. I think I have to have a second.
Yeah. Okay.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That's good. Yeah, table. Awarding the contract.
This is the boiler.
Yes.
That's the boiler, yes. Is there a motion to award the contract?
Yeah, so moved.
Is there a second to
I'll
that?
second.
Any discussion? Yes,
Who was
Barbara?
at when the bids were opened and everything? Who was there and what? Okay. Just curious. And everything went okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've worked with Reliable in my own
Okay,
home for
that's
years, so
kind of
I
what
knew
I
the
was
company and I.
Getting at,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
All those in favor of awarding the contract, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Public library bill, over 10,000, so they've given us a bill.
I
think
have
that's
a
what-
question.
Yeah, go ahead,
I
please.
just, what is Content Cafe?
It's one of the parts of Polaris, is the one.
It provides the cover images for all of the materials.
The what?
The
It covers,
cover images, when you click on an item in our online catalog, it shows not where the item is located, but it shows a cover.
yes. Oh,
The cover
that's,
image for the book, for an item like
okay.
a book.
okay.
That is the package that provides it.
And it's just called Content Cafe?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
How does
Just
this
curious.
compare to other bills? We pay this twice a year?
There's a couple, parts of it are once a year and parts of it are a couple times a year.
Okay,
This is right on.
so you can't compare it, can you? It's be about the same,
It's very close year to year.
yeah.
There's an occasional, a little bit increase here and there, but this is right where it needs to be. Where we expect it to be, I should say, $3.
Is there a motion to approve the bill for the
Move
champagne?
approval.
Second?
Oh,
Second.
Oh,
I have another question.
discussion. Bill?
So most of these looks like Urbana pays about a third, but then on the Polaris, we pay more than that. Is there like a per seat cost or something? That's more than a third of the total, right?
Becky, do you have the, Becky's got the bill? No, we've got the bill. There's a 10 here.
The whole bill.
Okay. Do you want, we have the full bill.
I mean, I'm just.
There's some things that we pay for that they don't use. So there are a couple of functions that they do things a
It
different
looks
way.
like all the others are pretty much divided 1/3,
Yes.
2/3, but
Yeah.
that one we pay more. I just was curious why.
Becky's gonna grab the.
So we are not billed if we don't use that particular item?
Well, for example, how our self-checks are set up is different than how Champaign Public Library self-checks are set up. They go through one magical piece of computer software, and we go through it a different way. So we pay for a thing that they don't pay for. So they pay for their functionality, we pay for our functionality. So we get the whole amount, as an example. So we're looking at the annual maintenance agreement bill, is that the one you're looking at?
Polaris, yeah, annual review, annual renewal maintenance.
Yeah, let me take a peek.
I mean, it's not that far off. You can
Okay.
let me know. It's not that big of a deal. I was just curious.
Yeah, that's why, just from different use of different products.
Okay.
Does everybody understand what's being asked? Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, we have
I just.
had it, have we?
We did.
Yeah, we
We just
did.
haven't voted on it.
Yeah, that's right.
We're having the discussion.
That's right. Ask Bill for a question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Invoice for the repair and the replacement of the air handler.
We didn't know how much it would cost to replace the motor of the air handler, which failed last week. And luckily, it's not $10,000. So
Oh.
you don't need to vote on this.
So we do know what it's going to cost now. What is it going to cost, Jim?
$5,000 to $6,000.
And is this part of either the boiler or the chiller?
No,
Hardly
it's the
different.
air handler. Hardly different. One of our two.
Thanks, Barbara. You made us all look good.
In between there's a template section too.
Oh, shoot.
So sorry, we should have mentioned that up front with the budget, the agenda.
And the 17 budget amendment. What, I guess I was looking before, what is that?
So
But this
that
is-
was like the halftime staffer.
Right, so we had a circulation staffer choose
That's
to be
right,
hourly.
that's right, yeah.
And we really desperately need some IT help. So we would like to convert
Yeah.
that position into a part-time benefited IT position while still having hourly hours to cover the desk and circulation. And then a small change of $300 in office lines.
Do I hear a motion to approve that bill?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, budget 18 for discussion. In a way, we've kind of had that
Is that
with,
this?
yeah.
So I have a question. Okay, so I know the answer is probably no, but what really struck me is I'm looking at all of these variables and probably what's going to be bad news. And I'm wondering, is there any way we can hire, that the city can loan us money, or somebody can loan us money to hire a development public relations person to help us make money because it would pay for itself eventually? I know the answer is no,
The
but,
answer is yes.
Because we are already in
We're already
there.
doing it.
oh,
It's in process.
oh, well, thank you. I thought we were putting off hiring that person.
No,
We're not going to end up having that person start till probably June 1.
Okay.
That doesn't
I
mean
see.
putting it off.
30,000.
It's just the timing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think this will really help.
It will.
Okay. I just, yeah, I didn't understand. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's been so much reorganization, reworking and reclassifying. It's just on the list.
Yeah, okay.
Chris?
Thank you.
I like it.
It's high on the list.
When there's a moment.
Good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. This may sound frivolous, but like many of you, I was reading this when the news came out about the U of I hiring a new basketball coach.
Yes.
And I said to myself, this world is seriously out of whack. I just want to have said that.
Yes.
I am so angry, I cannot stand it. We can't run this library, and things like that are going on in this world. It's just beyond belief. Okay, that's all. I had to have it out.
I have to say one too, to get it out there. I attended the town meeting with Scott Bennett and Carol. Is
Emmons.
anybody else there?
No.
Okay, what really struck me is, and actually struck everybody in the audience, and it was a packed house, is how hard those two are working to get this budget thing settled. And they've got this tiny piece of pie for services, not profit, education, libraries and everything, and yet there's the corporate part of Illinois is not paying their fair share. For example, one of the things that came up was raising taxes on soft drinks, and the lobbyist runs right in and says, can't, I mean, they all back off. So I guess what Carol was saying is how it remains this small piece of pie that the not-for-profits, there's very little to deal with, and there's money in the corporate sector that we can't touch. And now I've said my piece.
We should have an agenda item, venting.
We do. By the other name.
That would get out of bounds too. Oh.
Okay,
So,
moving on.
yes.
I guess there's really nothing we need to do because we're not going to change any budget line figures right now. So is that right? Yeah.
I have made the note that you want me to change the capital expenditures part to indicate general, that 160 for the chiller, and then, I have to do the same thing, air
Yeah,
handler, chiller,
yeah,
boiler.
yeah,
air
yeah,
handler,
yeah,
chiller, boiler.
yeah.
Okay. But the 50,000 is a to be determined, potentially windows,
Yes. Yes.
so I'll make that.
The 5 laws of media and information literacy. That's you.
It's me. So did everyone get a chance to take a look at that, what I thought was a lovely chart? Yes. It talked about the 5 laws of information literacy. Sorry, media and information literacy. What I really appreciated, I appreciated a number of things, but what I
No, I didn't look at
appreciated...
that. I did not look at that.
Oh, I can share. It was a link. I'm sorry, it was a
Oh,
link.
it's a link.
In the
No.
director's report. I can run more as well.
Ah, yes.
I actually have it in a flash drive though. Ha ha. Thank you guys for this. This will just take one moment to turn back on. And then we can all see them together. I actually just a slides together. So if you take a look at this. There was a little blurb about it on one of the school library journal page, which was the intro link that I sent. So this lists 5 different laws, and then it compared it, it mentioned another set of 5 laws, which are the 5 library laws, 5 laws of library science from 1931. Books are for use, every reader for his or her book, and as a caveat, number 3, every book for its reader. Save the time of the reader, and the library is a growing organism. So these are tenets that we as librarians think about and as library staff think about. So the library is a growing organism. That's why we have new collections. We're being responsive to our patrons and to our community. Books are for use. We don't chain books to the tabletop so that people can't check them out. We have a very small reference collection, and we have people using the collection. That's what they're for. So this is background, and then if you take a look at the new tenets, Law 1, information, communication, libraries, media, technology, the internet, blah, 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 blah. They are for use in critical civic engagement and sustainable development. They are equal in stature, and none is more relevant to the other or should be ever treated as such. So this, if I think of our library and how we make resources available to our public, we have the different kinds of materials, and we value each reader or user of the collection equally. So if someone wants to get on and look at Facebook, that's great. If someone wants to get on the computer and do job searching, that's great. Someone's looking for books in the catalog, that's great. We treat those users the same and give them the same respect and the same level of service as each other, because we don't judge. We make the resources available to people in different ways. So Law 2, every citizen is a creator of information, knowledge, and has a message. That's citizens of all ages. They must be empowered to access new information, knowledge, and to express themselves. Things are changing all the time, and we're here to help people learn. That's part of what we do. Media information literacy is for all, women and men equally, and a nexus of human rights. So in other places, in other parts of the world, in other parts of the country, men and women aren't treated equally and they don't get the same access. Of course, that's not the case here, but that UNESCO is putting this out means that they're calling attention to everyone's human rights, and access to information and media literacy is important for everyone. Law 3, information, knowledge, and messages are not always value neutral or always independent of biases. Fake news. Any conceptualization, use, and application of media and information literacy should make this truth transparent and understandable to all citizens. So there has always been fake news, but now, in particular, it's important to help people who want to learn to discern what resources are available to them, how to see whether or not you can trust the source, and to buy materials in the collection that will have a good representation of different viewpoints while also having them be reputable. So the librarians walk a fine line of providing good access and, again, being able to explain things. There's always been books written by Holocaust deniers, for example. Libraries will have copies of those books so you can take a look at them and see what different sides of the issue talk about, just as one example.
Or creationism, right?
Creationism.
You always have books on that in the science collection. I don't know, where are they cataloged?
I was just thinking, where are they?
Are they in science or are they in a different, anyway.
Mythology.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same idea that, yeah, you have them, but.
Well, as they say, a good public library is going to have some books to offend everybody.
Yes.
On both sides of an issue. Law 4, every citizen wants to know and understand new information, knowledge, and messages, as well as to communicate, even if he or she is not aware it makes or expresses it he or she does. Here, the rights must never be compromised. So even if you don't know you want to be able to do these things, we understand that you may, and that we value your rights. And then Law 5, it's not acquired all at once. Data information literacy is a lived and dynamic experience and process, which is why we work with people and have staff to do that for them. It is complete when it includes knowledge, skills, and attitudes, when it covers access, evaluation, assessment, use, production, communication of information, media, technology, content. Think of all the work we do at the Teen Open Lab to learn from the students and learn with the students and teach the students, all those 3 things together, so that we all learn different ways of communicating and how to use the different tools that are available. So I think these are a good starting point to have conversations, and I think our library does a very fine job of seeing that different people have access to these different, we're covering our different bases and we didn't even know this was coming. And I'm pleased to see that it is out there in the world. So,
A group of us in town, and we're going to talk about this in more detail at a later board meeting.
yeah.
But we're building a news literacy module based on the UNESCO principles.
Okay.
So it'll fit right into this. And I'll talk about that at a later meeting.
Yeah, look,
We're
Rachel.
going to wait until Rachel.
Rachel starts in
is-
April, we'll see her
Yeah.
at the April board meeting, and
Yeah.
then that'll give her a moment to start learning all together with the team.
Yeah, and it would be really great if we could test it out here and get some feedback from patrons. Oh, do you say patrons here, or do you call them customers, or what do you call them?
Patrons.
We call them
Patrons, okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anna, anything to report from the Friends?
Yes. Not this weekend, but the following weekend. Spring book sale starts on Thursday, March 30th. Runs until Monday, April 3rd. At the same time as Fred Schlip's train show, which should be a big draw. Also, at the Friends meeting, one of the things that was talked about, which I found rather interesting, was they had have a whole bunch of manga books. Do you know what manga books are? And people said, they're not going to be of interest. Who's going to want? Well, I think they're going to sell. So there is some, not controversy, but I'm hoping they just all disappear in no time at all. They're very, very popular at the King School, where I volunteer once a week. And it'll be interesting to see how...
What are they?
The manga
They're-
are a type of Japanese
Oh,
comic books.
Yes,
Okay.
it's
They're usually
Okay.
series.
It's like a graphic novel, but it's
Yeah.
from Japan, and there
Yeah.
were manga films, and it's just a whole genre.
When you
And
say
I think they
thing
will.
with kids, I mean, they just love them.
We have a large selection upstairs in the teen area we can show you later if you're
Yeah.
curious.
when you said Japanese.
We'll reserve one for you so that you
No,
can...
when as soon as you
Right.
said Japanese, I knew what
Some
you
of
were
them
talking
even open Japanese.
Yeah.
I mean,
backward to front.
And then also, another thing that was discussed at the last meeting was the possibility of doing advertising on the backs of the MTD buses. And it has been decided that that $400 from the book sale next week will go to paying for that advertising.
Yay.
So be on the lookout for, and don't run into them, just look for MTD buses.
To advertise what?
Yeah, they
To advertise the book sale?
No.
sell, no, I'm sorry, I didn't say that, did I? Advertising for the summer reading program.
Ah.
I did omit the important part. Thank you, Bill, sorry.
Facebook works pretty good too.
Pardon?
Do we do any advertising on Facebook?
We don't advertise, we post things on Facebook. You can do advertising, we've never tried that.
You can actually target zip codes.
You pay.
Sure, yes, you can.
Something you should look into.
Did you check with Champagne on the co-op?
I know there was going to be some discussion with the Champaign Library on their summer reading program also being on the backs of the buses. Did anything come of that?
They're not interested
Okay,
in
so
joining us on that venture.
our advertising on our
I
buses.
like it, let's try it.
Yeah, $400, that ain't a whole lot, but I'm glad that the Friends are doing that. So that was the last meeting, and everybody should come out and buy a couple books, and then bring them back, sell them again.
And sell them again. That's my motto. From the foundation, you probably have seen or have heard the fact that we're negotiating. Who knows where it goes for property. And the biggest news, I think you do know, we paid off the property across the street. The foundation paid that off, so that really adds to our budget because we were paying the interest. Heartland, Jeff's not here. Do you know of anything to report from him?
Well, if IMLS and IMLS money goes away, I believe that's gonna hit Heartland and Rails.
We are gonna need a section in the agenda for griping, and it's really,
Actually, it's called citizen comment, public comment.
Yes, that's true.
Celeste, have you got some things you want to convey to us?
I think I covered all the high points, because you've got your card.
Okay, I was going to tell you that you have in the packet the piece that was handed to us at the legislative session in Bloomington, and I think it's very important to notice the bills that the Library Association, ILA, have put together. And of course, the tax freeze or cap on taxes would hurt us greatly, so they're suggesting. So if any of you have contacts with Scott was there, so he knows. Our representative was not there, Carol was not there. But it's interesting, over the 2 years, we really haven't had as much legislative input as we should have. I mean, this is great, because this tells you what you can fight for, and the kind of things that ILA is fighting for, and so I think that I was glad for Celeste to put this in the packet, because you kind of saw what So you want to add anything to this?
Just that I totally agree with you, and I'm glad this is included, and as down the road, we're going to need to really really advocate and make some phone calls if we're not already, because this is going to be bad, I think.
To give you an idea, we have an advocate among us. She makes phone calls every morning to people all over the country.
I do 1 hour a day.
She spends 1 hour a day calling people, so that's action. Thank you, Barbara.
On the tax freeze, I think Celeste talked about a little bit in her report too.
Okay.
As far as we're concerned, the city has already made it clear that they would go ahead and fund the library at what they approved the budget for. So even if there's a tax freeze, the city would plan to absorb that in their property tax rate, because the city's already agreed to try to keep the rate constant. So the freeze hopefully wouldn't affect the city much unless something went really south and we'd need to raise property taxes. But we've kept the rate the same for the past 6 or 8 years. So, but I'm sure a lot of library districts would be hurt by that.
Barbara?
I just had a question, since I'm new back in town, about what that Carl decision is going to look like on Thursday. I mean, what are the options?
It's just going to be constitutional or unconstitutional, and then we'll have to
And
go
then-
from there. There's a big question
Okay.
what happens after that, because there will probably be more legislation to try to give other tax breaks to the hospitals, or who knows. And we don't know. The only revenue-wise, I know that the county is holding some revenue that the hospital paid conditionally last year. So that would, if it was unconstitutional, that would come to the city. So it would be a couple $2 million. Other than that, there's still other court cases that would handle some of the earlier debates, and then you'd have to go back, I think, from what I understand, and talk about each property separately, and whether each property would qualify for the tax exemption rather than the whole foundation as a whole. So it would get messy again. I think we'd expect more legislation and hopefully be able to follow it closer this time and get a better deal.
So it's a long-term thing that's going to happen, maybe.
Yeah, get some short-term relief, I think, would be a good way to think of it. We get some short-term relief, but a longer-term project to work it out.
Okay, thank you.
That is good. Kathy, do you want to give us a facilities update?
I think you know about the one thing I was going to talk about was the air handler issue, but I can follow up with what we've discussed already by saying is that it is going to be delivered on Thursday morning. So the motor will be delivered on Thursday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, because they have to deliver it with a crane to put it on the roof. So I will be here, Eleanor will be here to make sure, the city has been very helpful with barricades so they can block off the parking lot and so on and so forth. They don't expect it to take very long, but it'll be done on Thursday, and shortly thereafter we will be back up to speed with it.
So no closing?
No, not at all.
Celeste, do you have
Sounds like
anything else?
fun.
Go ahead.
Oh, great fun.
Well, don't drop it.
Don't drop it.
Don't even start.
It's just, I'm just
Then we'll
kidding.
be having a different conversation.
Just kidding. And sometimes if they're really big enough, and depending on the terrain, they're delivered, dropped in by helicopter too, so it can be pretty exciting.
Celeste, do you have anything else you'd like to report from your?
No, just
Stand
nice and busy. So yes, nice and busy. We have the new video game collection that was launched, which was in the director's report, but I just want to say it. And we also are now checking out laptops. We had Chromebooks and tablets circulating from the different information desks, but now we have laptops as well for use in the building.
Do I have a motion? I have seen no other business. Do I have a motion for closed session?
I can read that.
Okay.
I'll move. I'll move to go into closed session for personnel pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2, paren C, paren 1.
Would you please call the roll?
Jenny Lynn? Rivera?
Aye.
Chris Schuer?
Aye.
Mark Leonard?
Aye.
Michael Blakeman?
Aye.
Bill Brown?
Aye.
Robert Jones?
Now, will there be any votes or any action taken after the executive?
There will be no votes taken after the closed session.